Hey, Paul.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well, Miss Babby. How are you?
Good. All right. So we're heading to the office, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. Seems like a delightful day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Hey, I have some questions about an article that I have to write.
All right. What do you got?
It's about ride-sharing apps.
Ooh, you're in luck. I happen to know about some ride-sharing stuff.
Okay. What do you know? What are they? Let's
All of
start
it.
with that.
Well, okay. So a ride-sharing app and ride-sharing service is essentially an app that connects a driver with a passenger.
Okay. So are these drivers employees of the service provider?
That's a good question. And I would say that is a multi-million-dollar question because nobody really knows.
Okay.
There are countries that have said that Uber drivers are employees. There are states, and there's state battles going on in this all over the United States right now, trying to determine if they're employees or if they're independent contractors. And there's two sides to that. There's the side that it impacts the employees' rights, and then there's the side that it impacts the rights of third parties that are involved with the ride sharing.
So what happens when you get in an accident and you're an Uber driver?
Okay, so it's all about status with these things. For the most part, as an Uber driver, you're only covered if you have insurance that can cover yourself, or the third party that hits you or that you're in the accident with has insurance. Now, when you're actually driving with a passenger, there is a commercial liability policy that covers everyone in the vehicle. So if the person who hit you doesn't have enough insurance, there will be an underinsured coverage on that.
Okay, so what if I'm the passenger in an Uber vehicle?
Okay, if you're a passenger in an Uber vehicle, you're probably the best situated to be taken care of in the event of an accident. Uber has a commercial policy that carries $1 million of insurance if it's the driver's fault, and it has $1 million of underinsured coverage if someone hits you that doesn't have enough insurance coverage.
Okay. So what if I'm in my own personal car and an Uber driver hits me in their car?
Okay, so the Texas legislature did act some, and this is one of the only pieces of legislature that they have actually had enacted so far, where they say that the Uber drivers have to have at least $50,000 of liability coverage. It's $50,000 per individual, up to $1,000 of coverage, and $25,000 or $100,000 of coverage, and $25,000 of property damage coverage.
So we could sue all parties involved.
Yes.
So when I get in an Uber vehicle, do I have to wear my seatbelt?
Okay. So, unless you're in a special vehicle that doesn't have seatbelts or there's some sort of other system set up with that, you are required under Texas law, whether you're in the front or the back, to wear a seatbelt.
What about an open container? Can I get into an Uber with an open container?
Now, this is a subject that I've researched carefully. On the ground research on my part has happened with this particular subject. And unfortunately, what I've discovered is that if you're in a regular Uber vehicle, you are not allowed to have an open container. And you can get ticketed for open container, and the driver can get ticketed, and so it's not advisable.
Okay. So why are some cities opposed to Uber or any ride-sharing apps like Uber?
Well, so it really depends on the cities. One of the big things that Uber has run into and the different ride-sharing services run into is that each city wants to regulate the company differently. And so you could imagine from a business perspective that is a tremendous amount of logistics and infrastructure that would take place, having to have different structures for each city. So Uber, wants to have a standardized system that they feel is sufficient to, ensure that, they're getting reasonable quality of drivers, sufficient background checks have been made. Whereas cities like Austin wanted a more onerous requirement and wanted fingerprinting to be required as well. And so they got into a big battle, and both Uber and Lyft left Austin. And it's been much to the dismay of many of the people in Austin who became very accustomed to the services that it provided.
So how do people get around now?
Well, so I've done some of my own research on this, and through a particular trip in Austin a few months ago, I discovered another service called Fasten. Now, I will tell you this. I feel that Fasten is more for fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Why? What happened?
Well, unfortunately, I had a driver that was very unaccustomed to any of the driving regulations, went down a one-way street the wrong way, but wasn't able to understand directions like left, right, stop.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was horrifying.
Yeah. So what do you foresee in the future about this?
I think there's going to be a lot of things going on. I mean, Uber posted a pretty significant in the $1 billion of losses for this last year. And so they've grown very quickly. It's become a service that many people just use every day. And I think that ride sharing is with us from now on out. Whether or not it's going to be Uber or Lyft or what we kind of settle on as the regulations, I think time will tell.
Well, thanks so much, Paul, for answering all my questions. You did my homework for me.
Hey, no problem. Anything I can do to help.
Thanks.